Welcome to a place where the desert is not just sand. It is memory, power, and destiny. A land where every sunrise ignites the sky like a prophecy, and every shifting dune whispers the secrets of kings. Here, time does not move. It waits, it watches, it chooses its rulers carefully. And then one day, a young prince stepped into that timeless silence and broke it. A prince who refused to walk in the footsteps of history because he wanted to rewrite it. A prince who looked at a kingdom built on oil and tradition and saw a canvas vast enough to paint the future of an entire nation. Tonight you will witness the rise of that prince, Muhammad bin Salman. A vision that dared to challenge the old world. A revolution that rewrote the rules of power. And a journey that carries both brilliance and a shadow no nation can ignore. So sit tight, because this is not just a story. This is the transformation of a kingdom, and the making of a man who shook the world. This is where it all begins. Look at a map of the world. Find the Arabian Peninsula. For nearly a century, that vast sandy expanse was defined by one thing: oil. It was a land of ancient traditions, of shadows and secrets, a place that seemed to exist outside of time. Its wealth and its power locked in a generational pact between a royal family, a religious establishment, and the very earth itself. Then, a prince arose. Not from the direct line of succession, not from the expected branch of the family tree. He was a young man in a hurry, who looked at the endless dunes and did not see the past. He saw a blank canvas. He saw the future. And he decided to seize it, with a force and a velocity that would shake his nation to its core and send shockwaves across the globe. This is the story of that prince, Muhammad bin Salman. A story of vision, of transformation, and of the immense price of building a new world. His story begins not in the blinding glare of the public square, but in the quiet, hallowed halls of royal privilege. Born on August 31st, 1985, he was the son of Prince Salman bin Abdulaziz, the formidable governor of Riyadh, a man known as the king of the family for his unparalleled knowledge of its intricate, often treacherous politics. Young Muhammad was one of dozens of grandchildren of the kingdom's founder, Ibn Saud. He was not a standout scholar in the traditional sense, but he possessed a different kind of intelligence, a relentless, consuming curiosity. He devoured history, not as a dry list of dates, but as a playbook of power. He studied the biographies of great leaders, dissecting their triumphs and their fatal flaws. And most importantly, he had a front-row seat to the ultimate masterclass in statecraft, his father's court. For years he was the silent apprentice, watching his father settle tribal disputes, manage colossal budgets, and navigate the labyrinth of allegiances that held the kingdom together. He saw the immense potential of his birthright, but he also saw the cracks forming. A bloated, sluggish economy addicted to oil, a restless youth population with few prospects, and a rigid social structure that seemed to be holding the nation back. A quiet, simmering conviction began to form within him. The survival of the House of Saud required a revolution from within. After earning a law degree from King Saud University, his path was not a direct ascent to ministry. He moved in the world of business and technology, founding a non-profit and leading a research center. These were not mere hobbies, they were laboratories. They were where he honed a modern, disruptive mindset, far from the ossified corridors of government. But his true calling was power. When his father was named Crown Prince in 2011, MBS became his chief of staff, his gatekeeper, his shadow. He was the engine in his father's machine, the unseen hand managing the vast network of influence and ambition. He saw the resistance to change, the entitled princes who saw the treasury as their personal account, the clerics who wielded social control like a weapon. He stored it all away. He was biding his time, preparing for the moment the throne would shift. That moment came with the speed of a desert storm. In January 2015, King Abdullah died, and Salman bin Abdulaziz ascended to the throne. What happened next was a political earthquake that reshaped the Saudi landscape for generations. In a series of breathtaking moves, King Salman swept aside the established line of succession, removing his half-brother, Mokrin, and his nephew, Muhammad bin Naif, from the path to power. In their place, he appointed his own son, Muhammad bin Salman, just 29 years old, as deputy crown prince and minister of defense. The message was deafening. The old guard was out. A new era had begun, and MBS did not wait to announce his arrival on the global stage. As defense minister, he immediately launched Operation Decisive Storm, a massive coalition military intervention in Yemen. It was a bold, aggressive gambit, a signal to the region, and to his rivals at home, that Saudi Arabia under his guidance would no longer be reactive. It would be proactive, assertive, and unafraid to use its military might to shape its geopolitical destiny. The war was and remains controversial, a humanitarian catastrophe that drew international condemnation. But for the young prince, it was a necessary declaration of strength. If the war was his statement of power, his next move was his declaration of genius. In April 2016, he unveiled Saudi Vision 2030. This was not just a policy document, it was a manifesto, a dream etched onto the blueprint of a nation. He stood before his people and the world, and spoke a language no senior Saudi royal had ever spoken before. He spoke of a post-oil Saudi Arabia. He envisioned a global hub for trade, tourism, and technology. He promised a return to a moderate, open Islam. He talked of empowering women, of diversifying the economy, of a vibrant society where cinemas and concerts would replace the stifling social restrictions of the past. The world was mesmerized. Here was a young, charismatic leader, speaking with the audacity of a tech CEO, promising to drag a conservative, insular kingdom into the heart of the 21st century. He became an instant celebrity, the face of a new Arab world. The energy was palpable, especially among the millions of young Saudis who saw in him a reflection of their own ambitions and frustrations. And then he started delivering. The pace of social change was dizzying. The ban on women driving was lifted. Cinemas, silent for decades, flickered to life. International music stars performed in Riyadh. The notorious religious police were stripped of their power to arrest. The air itself seemed to change, charged with a sense of liberation and possibility. For a generation of Saudis, it felt like a long, dark winter was finally ending. But this sunlit narrative of reform had a dark, parallel shadow. To build his new future, he needed absolute control and vast sums of money. The vision required a firm, even ruthless hand. In November 2017, just months after being formally named Crown Prince, he showed that hand. In what became known as the Ritz-Carlton Purge, he detained hundreds of the kingdom's most powerful princes, ministers, and billionaire tycoons, locking them in the very symbol of their luxury. It was billed as an anti-corruption campaign, and to many citizens, it was a popular move, a long overdue reckoning for a corrupt elite. But it was also a masterful, chilling consolidation of power. Billions of dollars were recovered for the state treasury, and more importantly, every potential rival was neutralized. The message was unequivocal. There was only one center of gravity in Saudi Arabia now. Then, in October 2018, came the event that would forever bifurcate his legacy. Jamal Khashoggi, a Saudi journalist and critic of the Crown Prince, walked into the Saudi consulate in Istanbul and never walked out. The global investigation that followed was a firestorm. Intelligence agencies, most notably the CIA, concluded with high confidence that the brutal murder was approved by Muhammad bin Salman himself. The visionary reformer was instantly recast in the international press as a savage autocrat. The contrast was jarring. The prince who liberated women was the same prince who allegedly ordered the dismemberment of a critic. He denied any involvement, calling it a heinous crime conducted by rogue operatives, but the shadow has clung to him with tenacious grip. It was the ultimate demonstration of his governing philosophy. Progress at any cost, and dissent would be met with ultimate finality. Yet, the story did not end there. In a testament to his and his kingdom's immense geopolitical and economic weight, he weathered the storm. Global business leaders, after a brief pause, returned to Riyadh. The march of Vision 2030 did not slow, it accelerated. He embarked on a tour of world leaders, from Washington to Paris, projecting an image of a statesman who could not be ignored. At home, he pushed through painful economic reforms, introducing a value-added tax, cutting energy subsidies, betting that his people would endure the short-term pain for the long-term promise of his vision. And the vision itself began to physically manifest in the most audacious ways. From the desert, the plans for NEOM arose, a $500 billion futuristic megacity, promised to be a hub of innovation, powered by AI and renewable energy. Its centerpiece, the Line, was unveiled. A mirrored linear city 170 kilometers long, with no cars, no streets, and zero carbon emissions. It was a concept so bold, so seemingly science fiction, that it captured the world's imagination all over again. It was the ultimate symbol of his ambition, not merely to reform Saudi Arabia, but to reinvent the very concept of a city, of a society, of the future itself. Today, Muhammad bin Salman is the de facto ruler of Saudi Arabia. His father, the king, is the symbol of continuity, but MBS is the architect of the future. His life story is a tale of two powerful, warring narratives. In one, he is the revolutionary prince who broke the chains of tradition, who unleashed the potential of his people, particularly women and the youth, and who is single-handedly dragging a nation away from its dangerous dependency on oil. He is the modernizer, the disruptor, the visionary. In the other narrative, he is the crown prince of realpolitik, an absolutist who centralized power to a degree unseen in modern Saudi history. He is the man for whom the ends, no matter how glittering, justify the most brutal of means. He is the leader of a country that remains engaged in a devastating war, and where political opposition is silenced, whether through imprisonment or violence. His story is still being written, every day, in the steel and glass of rising skyscrapers, and in the quiet, fearful whispers of dissidents. He is a paradox embodied, a force of liberation and a force of suppression. He looked at the sands of his ancestors and saw not the footprints of the past, but the blueprint for a tomorrow he is determined to build. No matter the storms he must create, and no matter the shadows he must cast to bring his blinding vision to light.